All right, well, next up, we'll be having a panel discussion with 3 of our FedEx Express and JA ITC alumni. Participants at this International Trade Challenge may wonder what's in store for them after this event. And I can't think of a better way to understand this than by listening to other young people who have already gone through this before. This afternoon, we have the pleasure of inviting a few outstanding alumni from the ITC program from over the years to share how this program has had an impact on their lives. So our fireside with FedEx Express JAITC Asia Pacific alumni is titled Turning Passion into Purpose. So let me introduce our panel. First off, we have Raine Nakpil from the Philippines, and she participated in ITC back in 2021. We also have Lucy Lee from Korea, who participated in the 2018 ITC. And more recently, we have Jaime Yau from Singapore, who participated in last year's event. And I should mention that all 3 of these young women were top 3 finalists. So we're delighted to welcome you all. I see that you're on screen. So we've got a few questions. Maybe I'll start with one for all 3 of you, if I could. So first off, can you just, each of you, give us an update about where you are now, what you're doing, what you're studying, where you're working, since taking part in ITC. So maybe Jaime, we'll start with you since you just went through all of this last year.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Nice to meet everybody. I'm so excited for your journey, throughout this whole competition. So I actually began my journey in the startup and entrepreneurship space a year ago. So it was really timely because while I was doing this competition, I was also running my own trust and safety startup called Empathly. And through that personal journey of doing the startup work, I realized that I also really enjoyed youth development and leadership work. So I did enjoy the co-creation aspect of startup, but I realized that, through this startup venture for a year, I really actually wanted to be in the social space a lot more. So this journey in itself was a path of self-discovery on my personal interests, which led me to eventually intern for a youth development charity called Halogen Foundation. And I eventually found home in nonprofits and charity. But, on the topic of startups in itself, I felt super empowered and enabled just by trying this startup out for a year. And because I tried and because I started, I've actually gotten a very good gist of how it feels like to lead partnerships and communications. And that's what I'm doing now in my nonprofits. So I'm actually in 2 different nonprofits. One is ASEAN Business Youth Association, where we focus on ASEAN youth. And the second one is actually Cyber Youth Singapore, a nonprofit that is the leading youth in tech umbrella movement in Singapore. So when I look back on my journey, I realized that, through competitions like JITC, through doing this entrepreneurial journey on my own, I found a lot of passion areas that I want to work on in the future.
That's amazing. Thanks, Jaime. I mean, it sounds like you've been up to so much in just a year, so incredible. Lucy, can we turn to you next?
Sure. So happy to be here. I'd like to start off with that. My name is Lucy. I attended ITC when I was a senior in high school. I attended a university in the States right after called the University of Pennsylvania. And I actually just graduated this past month. So I studied neuroscience in college, which may feel like, you may think it's very distant from entrepreneurship or anything, but I would say that's really not the case. And college was like a time, especially right after ITC, where I realized whatever major you decide to pursue, entrepreneurship will always be like a very golden piece in your journey, whichever career, whichever field you decide to take. So that's definitely something that I had in mind throughout my entire career, even though I had no intentions of majoring in anything like business or anything like that. And so I kind of stayed faithful to that lesson from ITC and started my own little nonprofit / social entrepreneurship venture, I would say. Starting about 2 years ago, I started working in Uganda to establish their health systems and strengthen their health systems, build emergency medical services, and so on. And I would definitely say that I could definitely talk more about this later, but I would definitely say that lessons from ITC, the core values are very transferable, whichever space you're in, nonprofit, for profit, or whatever in between. So I would say that you're definitely in the right spot if you're envisioning yourself to work in any of these ventures in the near future. Thank you so much for having me today. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Lucy. That's amazing. And I think that's a great takeaway, that this entrepreneurial skill set that one develops in programs like the ITC Challenge, completely transferable, no matter what your passion is, what it is you choose to pursue. So that's a great point. Glad to hear what you're up to. And last but not least, Raine, would love to hear where you are, where this event finds you, and what you're up to.
Hi, everybody. So this year I just graduated from high school. So I graduated from the British School Manila on an international baccalaureate scholarship. So I was the second runner-up in the 2021 JA FedEx International Trade Challenge, and I did that when I was 15. So it's been a little while. After that, I continued working part-time with Junior Achievement Philippines by becoming a student ambassador and also a mentor for various competitions, not just this one, but also Company of the Year, for example. So yeah, it's been about 3 years since I joined the competition, and I don't think it's an understatement to say that my life has changed dramatically since joining. Before becoming involved with JA, it was like kind of my dream in life, and I bonded over this with my ITC partner. To enter the field of medicine. But recently, like I think with all of my experience with JA, I've kind of moved away from that science dream, and now I'm more focused on business and ideas like international relations. So what really opened my eyes to this world of entrepreneurship was the really great opportunity I was given this summer to attend a fully funded boot camp in Malaysia as the Junior Achievement Philippines Alumni President. So now I'm about to start my first year of college, not taking a BS, but taking a BA in communications. And right now I'm just focusing on strengthening the J Philippines alumni community. And we have a lot of exciting events in store, and I'm so happy to be here with you all today.
Amazing stuff. Thank you, Raine. And it's a great point. You know, I think for our students who are taking part in this event, and as you envision your futures, you know, it's normal to evolve, to change, to pivot. You know, what you're doing now, how you're thinking about your future will no doubt continue to evolve. All right, well, we've got a few other questions we'd like to get to, maybe just to make it simple. So for our alumni, if you have anything to say, just unmute yourself and have at it. So looking back, what would you say were your biggest takeaways from ITC, and how has it shaped you up to this point? And some of you touched on this, but maybe you'd like to say more. Who would like to get us kicked off?
I can definitely go ahead first, if that's okay.
Please.
Yes, I think the biggest takeaway that the Asian Pacific Finals at ITC provides is definitely the global collaboration. I think there's a very good, legitimate reason why ITC as a whole decided to break up your original pairs from your original countries and instead match you with a completely random person that you've never met before and from a different country. And I think that in itself puts you in a very challenging position where you have to navigate yourself in not only communicating with a person you've never met before, but also working with them in a very tight schedule to produce something that's very persuasive for a very large audience. There may be people who've never presented in front of these many people, before, who's never worked with someone from a different country before, and there's cultural differences, there's language differences, working style differences that you have to navigate through to be able to achieve what you want to achieve by participating in ITC. And if you can't get through that part, I think that's a really crucial thing that can really make or break your experience at ITC. And it's definitely the biggest thing I would say you can gain out of this if you really put in your everything. So I would say the biggest takeaway is really that experience where, it's really hard to meet a complete random stranger from a different country with similar interests and with similar qualifications and interests in business and trade and so on in a well-coordinated event like this. So I would say definitely think about that, think about the value that brings and how that can help you to practice your leadership and communication skills and try to really make the best out of that as well.
Oh, that's such a good point, Lucy. Thank you. And again, I would emphasize that again, just make sure everyone caught that sound bite or my take on it, which is, it's important to be comfortable with discomfort, being pushed out of your comfort zone, working with people, given a curveball topic, because that's the real world. And at the end of the day, that's what this program is about. And just being able to adapt is so, so critical. Excellent points. Raine or Jaime, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, completely second, what Lucy said. And on a similar tangent as well, my biggest takeaway was really the regional friendships. And I know it sounds a bit cliche in that sense, but in 10 years' time, in 2 years' time, you may or may not remember whether you won, what you did, or the problem that you pitched. But what you will remember are really the relationships, the friendships, and the connections. So, for example, last year when I came on to the ITC, I made a lot of friends and I connected with them on social media. So some, for example, like Instagram. And it's really, really nice because when you look on Instagram, you open it, you see how they've grown, where they're going to next. Some of them have gotten into relationships, some of them have gotten into scholarships for their colleges and moved on to start new initiatives and businesses. So I think that, in my take, the biggest takeaway for me was really to be a part of this network, to be a part of their lives through, social media or just keeping up to replying their Instagram stories in itself. And because we all live different lives, I think it's so amazing that through JAITC, through this amazing competition sponsored, I feel that we all really have to cherish these relationships.
That's a really important point, I think, Jaime. The people we work with, the relationships we develop, this determines so much of our success, not only in an event like this, but in life. So really good point. And I guess the takeaway for our students taking part would be, really get to know your partner, work closely together. You're going to be pushed, and it's important that under pressure, you can work well together, not only during the event, but also to maintain that relationship over time. Wonderful stuff. I'm just going to move along to another question, if I may. And maybe, Raine, since we didn't get to hear from you on that last question, we can start with you here. But this applies to all three of you. If you had a time machine and could go back to the ITC event in the year that you took part in, what advice would you tell your younger self heading into this event?
Yeah, so for me, I probably would have encouraged myself to kind of worry less, because given about like above all, win or lose, like what Jaime said, in 2 years' time, you might not even remember if you won first place, second place, third place, or even if you didn't place. Um, and I think looking back now, in the place I'm in my life, I can say that with confidence that I've witnessed firsthand how JA cares for each and every one of their alumni, regardless if you have like a title or not. So from platforms to JA Gather, to the continuous opportunities given to us even after the competition has concluded, Jay kind of does a very good job at including everyone in their family. And I think this reminder is something that would have benefited my younger self, given that, like, admittedly, I was very hyper focused on wanting to win. Like, I kind of forgot to just enjoy the ride. Um, and I remember how, during the alumni boot camp I attended, me and the other alumni presidents kind of bond over the fact that none of us in the room were like, well, most of us couldn't say in the room that we were like the first place winner of the JA competition we participated in. I mean, like I mentioned a while ago, I was second runner up. But despite that, we were all still gathered in a room together representing our entire region. So, regardless of our titles, JA still gave us this once in a lifetime opportunity to lead and to serve. So, I'd like to, remind the other participants in this meeting right now to, simply enjoy and to remember that your JA journey will continue long after this competition concludes.
That's amazing, Raine. Thank you so much. Really good advice. How about Lucy or Jaime? Anything you wanted to add or your own take on that?
I think I can definitely add on to that. I think the biggest things, the biggest perks of ITC is that it never ends when the competition comes to a close. For me personally, I've always been an active member of JA Korea and the alumni network, and we're actually trying to get more and more people involved. So I want to take this as an opportunity to really vouch for everyone that this ITC experience, the people that you meet here, this is not going to be the last time you meet them. And it really shouldn't be that way because it really brings a lot of value. And there is a lot of value in being connected with a huge network of people around the world who's been through a similar experience, also want to do similar things in the future, be entrepreneurs, and so on. So just want to take this as an opportunity to say whichever country you're representing today, make sure you stay connected to your country's JA network. It is going to be one of the biggest, basically, support systems if you decide to be an entrepreneur later in college or later in life.
That's great. Jaime, any advice you'd like to impart in terms of how the students should think about the next couple of days?
Awesome. I think one thing is to always be open to different perspectives. I think especially when we are working with people from different nationalities, different cultures, different schools, one thing that I would absolutely tell myself is definitely communicate with your partner, be very, very open to what he or she is saying, and make sure to always start with leveraging each other's strengths. So my partner, his name was called Jacob. He was from the Philippines, and he was absolutely amazing at marketing. And that was really, really fundamental to my progress throughout the competition as well, because I could handle the operation side, because I took an international trade diploma back in high school. And for him, because he's so great at marketing and selling things and communication, he handled that. So that's one tip that I would give.
That's great. And just to riff on that, I mean, another way to put it might be to say that it's really important to complement each other. You don't have to do the same things well, but identifying what one person does well, what another person does well, and then working together as a team is important. And you also mentioned, speaking up and talking. But I think the flip side of that, which is probably equally important, is being a good listener. Because as we know, it's impossible to listen and talk at the same time. So again, working on that relationship before you get towards a solution, I think for our students is great advice. All right, I think we have time for one, maybe two more questions. So again, I'd like to ask this one to all three of you, and please chime in if you've got something to say. Why should young people think about international trade in the first place? Why does or should it matter to young people? There's so many other things to think about. Who'd like to get us started on this one?
I could probably go first. I think, coming from a background with a diploma in international trade, I would say it's been super crucial. So when I did my startup stint in Parsley, what it was doing international trade in itself, it was an entrepreneurial fundamental skill. And why do I say that? It really kind of brings you to the mindset of how do you think practically, how do you think critically, how do certain factors chime in, especially at an international perspective, into your business. And I think that when we as youths do international trade, it should matter. It definitely should, especially for all the upcoming and bright entrepreneurs, especially for everybody that's interested to start their own project, do their own thing, or even contribute to a cause that the world needs. And because international trade has that very strong international aspect, along with how businesses communicate and work with each other, I think this is such a good platform, especially for everybody to learn and to really start honing that muscle and skill.
Thank you so much, Jaime. Lucy or Raine, anything you'd like to add on this? Why does international trade matter, or why should it matter to young people?
Yeah, I'd like to echo everything Jamie said. And also, for me personally, I feel like at the heart of international trade is this great idea that, our world has developed to accommodate communication and collaboration, not hindered by any literal or metaphorical borders. So I guess sometimes this is something we can kind of take for granted, but this very competition teaches us to look at other participants from so many different regions and cultures and appreciate that we're able to work with them. So, international trade is, I'd say, like an intrinsic part of all of our lives. And rooted in that is the opportunity we have to help others and to share our resources. So, um, yeah, from stimulating economic growth to like providing access to foreign technology and just promoting like cultural growth, it's an essential part in shaping us as global citizens who contribute to making this world a better place, which is why it's something that should matter to young people and to all people.
Thank you, Raine. I think we have time for one more question, and maybe Lucy, I'll have you close us out on this one since you didn't get a chance to chime in on the question just now. So, more and more we hear about how young people are the future, and often you'll hear this from older people. So my question, I guess, is do you think of this as pressure from older generations who maybe don't have the answers and they're just turning to young people for hope? Or do you think of this as something that you want to live up to, a challenge that is something that is exciting to you as innovators potentially?
Yes, I think, I definitely don't think of it as a burden myself for me personally, because I don't think our journey as global citizens as a world to find solutions and our desire to find solutions is not like a pie that we need to share. It's not like I do half, you do half. It doesn't really work that way, the way I see it. I think it's more like a global movement really to make our world collectively a better place. And there's no me or you, us versus them kind of mentality in that journey. And I think one of the most important things that really ties in well with that is this whole process about thinking about international trade, international business, entrepreneurship, and even like trying to find solutions for the next generation. All of that really kind of narrows, like it kind of boils down to the question of like what values are you standing up for? And I think ITC is excellent in that way. It's an excellent opportunity to practice that and think about what kind of person you can be to bring those solutions, because it helps you to practice a value-centered approach, which makes you think about sustainability. It makes you think about long-term things instead of short-term goals. And that is a key thing, regardless of what kind of solution you're trying to present. Because I personally think why you do certain things is sometimes matters more than what you actually do, because that obviously pitches into sustainability, viability, and it's like the goal to make things more sustainable and more successful in the long run. So I think, it's more of a global movement. It's really not, no one should feel burdened to be the ultimate hero for the world. I don't think it's on anyone's shoulders like that. It's more of a collective thing. And it's more about what kind of leadership and communication skills do you have to bridge people together and bridge resources together. And ITC in that way is an excellent chance to practice that in a small sense as high school students. It's like I would say a preview of what the bigger world is going to be like when you go to college and beyond.
Well, thank you, Lucy, Jaime, and Raine, all three of you. All of your answers were so incredibly thoughtful and mature, and I think that's a real testament to, I'm sure there are many forces that have shaped you and brought you to where you are, but I would like to think that ITC played a role in that. Listening to all of you speak, I'm just so impressed. Truly. Thank you very much. Your insights, thanks for sharing your insights on your experience. I hope it's of value to this year's students. Now, before we end the Fireside Chat, I'm told that Raine, as a member of the Alumni Leadership Academy, you have something to share with the ITC finalists. So Raine, please take it away.
It's my pleasure to be able to advocate for all of you to please use the Junior Achievement Gather app, which you can use on your computers or on your phones, as I do. This app can ensure that all of you stay connected with us even after this competition ends. Who knows, maybe in a couple of years, this very app is where we'll tap you to be one of our panelists in an event similar to this one. So from internships to real work to exclusive events, just like the fully funded bootcamp I was able to attend in another country, Gather strengthens our sense of belonging in our growing community of 100 million plus JA alumni worldwide. So grow your international network, make new friends, and embark on new exciting experiences which will shape you as a person, a student, and a young professional in an increasingly globally competitive world. Being a part of the JA community gives you an irrefutable edge, and I can assure you that it is a family you belong with. So thank you, everyone, and please utilize the Gather app to see how much more we have in store for you. To sign up, you can scan the QR code seen on screen, or you can go to the link that's also on the slide, or just Google, JA Gather. And yeah, we hope to see you sign up. Thank you.